So I'm thinking about doing a series on this channel called Should Have Happened Edition. And this is going to involve previous matches that have happened in the WWE where you saw the result for what it was. And I basically, you know, go on a tangent about, well, this wrestler should have won that match at that time, or this storyline should have happened instead of the way it did happen in the history books, right? How it was originally recorded. I'm going to give an alternative outcome, right? So certain matches, certain storylines, certain angles, where I just give my take on, well, this should have happened, or that should have happened, or this should have taken place instead of what we originally got. So let's go back to WrestleMania 25, the Money in the Bank ladder match that involved Kane, Finlay, CM Punk, Kofi Kingston, Mark Henry, Christian, and I believe I'm missing somebody else, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin. And so I did not like the result of that Money in the Bank ladder match. CM Punk turned out to be the winner. He became a two-time Money in the Bank winner. And when he pulled down that briefcase, the fans were not going for it, right? The fans were against it. They actually booed CM Punk. If you go back and look back at that match, fans weren't happy that Punk won because he had won it previously, WrestleMania 24. So the person that should have won the WrestleMania 25 Money in the Bank briefcase should have been Christian Cage, Father of the Year, right? Now, Christian had just came back to the WWE after 4 years of being away. He had went to TNA during that time, and during that time, he was establishing himself as a main eventer, right? He was becoming validated for his talents. He was getting the respect that he thought he deserved, right? He was getting good recognition in TNA. He had a pretty good run there, right? He solidified himself there in TNA. And when he came back to WWE, the ECW brand that was like, uh, the WWE's version of Extreme Wrestling, which that ECW was so watered down. When he had came back, he had gotten a very light reception from the crowd, as if it wasn't even a big deal. And I remember his music hitting on that one ECW episode in 2009, and he didn't get a good pop. The commentators did not do a good job selling his return. Like it wasn't a big deal to them that he had came back. But 2 months later, he's in this Money in the Bank ladder match, and the fans at that night were really on Christian's side, and they were cheering for him. They wanted him to win. So if you go back and watch that match, I mean, they were more in support of Christian winning the match than Punk or anybody else in that match. So he should have won based off the fact that he went to TNA, a different promotion at that time, solidified himself as a main eventer. So why couldn't he have that opportunity, to come back in the fold automatically, win the Money in the Bank, and he could have cashed in on either the WWE Championship or the World Title, right? And how great would that be? He won Money in the Bank. He cashed in on Edge or Jeff Hardy for the World Championship in 2009. Instead, what we got was CM Punk that won the Money in the Bank briefcase. Then he would go on to cash in on Jeff Hardy, which, looking back at it, Punk winning Money in the Bank is what led to that legendary feud with him and Jeff Hardy. Now, if Christian had won, we would have never gotten that feud between Jeff Hardy and CM Punk. We would have never gotten that legendary feud, right? Or even heel CM Punk, or what could have been led to what led to straight edge society CM Punk, which was really good stuff at that time. And I thought that was the best of CM Punk. So when Christian came back, it was supposed to be a big deal, but it wasn't. And I think that's why ultimately they did not have him win the Money in the Bank. I think if Christian had came back to it an amazing pop, an amazing reception, then I think Vince would have pulled the trigger and had him win the briefcase instead of Punk. Because fans were not happy. They didn't want to see Punk win it twice. Hence why they booed Punk when he cashed in on Jeff Hardy. And maybe that was always the plan from the jump. But I had heard around that time that Christian was originally supposed to be Jeff Hardy's attacker that time when he was chasing the title. He was in a feud Edge around Survivor Series 2008. They were talking about how Jeff had a mystery attacker and was supposed to turn out to be revealed to be Christian Cage. It never happened. Regardless of how awesome that feud was between CM Punk and Jeff Hardy in 2009, that started out with Punk cashing in on Jeff, I still would have loved to see Christian win Money in the Bank that year and would have gotten a chance to be a main eventer and have more likely have a feud with Jeff Hardy for that world championship or Edge to be in that mix. And instead of just being an ECW, I don't think ECW was a good fit for Christian despite him, being a ladder match specialist. I think they should have just thrusted him into the main event scene from the jump and be up in there with Edge and Jeff Hardy and Chris Jericho, all the SmackDown main eventers. Should have put him on SmackDown, have him mix it up with Edge, Jericho, CM Punk, Jeff Hardy. Because him being in ECW that first year of him coming back, I think it ruined his momentum and it did no favors for him. Yeah, it was cool to see him win the ECW championship, but I don't think anybody wanted to see that because of his work in TNA prior to him returning. Because I think a lot of people got to know how good Christian actually was due to his work there and the fact that he was treated like a main eventer.